The Great Council chamber had never been so quiet. For 3 hours, the delegates sat in stunned silence, processing what they had learned about humanity's true capabilities. The images of Earth's massive shipyard still glowed on the central display, showing vessels that dwarfed anything in Council space. Council Speaker Morden finally broke the silence. His crystalline body had lost its usual rainbow shimmer, now reflecting only pale, worried colors. "The Council calls for a vote," he announced. "All in favor of immediate military action against the human threat." Admiral Theknos rose slowly from his seat. The insectoid military leader looked older than his centuries of age, his compound eyes dim with defeat. I withdraw my motion for military action." Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Theknos had been the strongest voice calling for war against humanity. "Admiral?" Morden asked, surprised. "What would be the point?" Theknos replied, his voice hollow. "We have seen their defensive capabilities. If they wanted us dead, we would already be dead. Military action would be suicide, and it would accomplish nothing except our own destruction." A small delegate from the pacifist coalition stood up nervously. "Then what do we do? How do we respond to a species that could destroy us all without effort?" Before anyone could answer, the chamber's communication system activated. Admiral Kyung-ho appeared on the screen, flanked by Chief Diplomat Mi-young and Cultural Analyst Jae-sung. "Honored Council," Kyung-ho began, "I request permission to address your concerns directly." Morden looked around the chamber. Several delegates nodded, while others seemed too frightened to respond. "Permission granted, Admiral. Thank you. I understand that learning about our capabilities has been shocking, but I want to share something with you that might ease your fears." Mi-young stepped forward, activating a display that showed Earth's history. For most of our development as a species, humans believed we were alone in the universe. We had no one to learn from, no one to guide us, no one to show us how to live peacefully with other intelligent beings. Images flowed across the screen. Wars, destruction, suffering, but also art, music, literature, and acts of kindness. "We made terrible mistakes," Jae-sung continued. "We fought wars that nearly destroyed our world. We created weapons that could have ended our civilization, but we learned from those mistakes." "How?" asked Dr. Quillara from her tank, tentacles slowly uncurling with curiosity. "By understanding that strength without wisdom leads to destruction," Kyung-ho replied, "and that true strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves." He activated another display, showing images of human peacekeeping forces, disaster relief efforts, and scientific missions. "When we developed the power to destroy, we chose instead to build. When we learned to travel between stars, we chose to explore rather than conquer." A delegate from the Aquatic Federation spoke up. "But you still build warships. Why do you need such powerful weapons if you truly seek peace?" Mi-young answered carefully. "Because peace is not the natural state of the universe. There are hostile forces in the galaxy, pirates, raiders, species that believe might makes right. Our ships are powerful because we have learned that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. And now we offer that protection to you," Kyung-ho added, "not as conquerors but as guardians. Humanity proposes a mutual defense pact with the Galactic Council." The chamber erupted in confused voices. This was not what anyone had expected. "You want to protect us?" Morden asked, disbelief clear in his crystalline voice. "We want to work with you," Kyung-ho corrected. "You have knowledge we lack. Technologies we haven't developed, arts we haven't imagined, philosophies we haven't considered. In exchange, we offer our protection against those who would harm peaceful civilizations." Theknos leaned forward, his military mind immediately grasping the implications. "You're proposing that humanity becomes the Council's military arm." "More than that," Mi-young said. "We're proposing a true partnership. Your wisdom, our strength. Your knowledge, our protection. Together, we could create something greater than either of us could accomplish alone." Chief Medical Officer Yu Jin had been waiting in the Indomitable's medical bay, and now she stepped forward with her own presentation. "We also offer medical technology," Yu Jin said, "displaying genetic therapy techniques and life extension treatments. Our research suggests we could extend the natural lifespan of most Council species by 300 to 500 years. Dr. Quillara's tentacles suddenly snapped to attention. "Life extension? By that much?" "Our analysis indicates that most Council species suffer from genetic degradation that we learned to correct centuries ago. The techniques are relatively simple to implement. For the first time since the crisis began, some of the delegates looked excited rather than terrified. The prospect of dramatically extended lifespans was attractive to any species. Engineer Taman joined the presentation with displays of human defensive technology. We're also prepared to share shield generators and defensive systems. These could protect your worlds from natural disasters, hostile attacks, or cosmic events. Why? The question came from a small, bird-like delegate who had been silent throughout the session. Why would you share such valuable technology? Kyung-ho smiled. Because strength shared is strength multiplied. Because knowledge grows when it's spread, not hoarded. And because we believe that the galaxy is better when all its children can thrive. Cultural analyst Jae Sung activated one final display. We've been monitoring your communication networks for 50 years. We've seen your art, your music, your literature. We've watched your scientific discoveries and your cultural achievements. Humanity doesn't want to conquer the Council. We want to learn from you. The chamber fell quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. Instead of fear, there was wonder. Instead of terror, there was hope. Council Speaker Morden stood slowly. The Council will need time to discuss this proposal. Of course, Kyung-ho replied. We'll wait as long as necessary. The humans' communication link closed, leaving the Council alone to debate. But before anyone could speak, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Intelligence Officer Seo Jun's voice cut through the chamber's communication system. Council Station Alpha, this is Indomitable Intelligence. We're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. Unknown fleet approaching at high speed. On the main display, sensor readings showed dozens of ships moving toward Council space. But these weren't Council vessels. They were larger, more aggressive, and moving in attack formation. Pirates, Dr. Quillera whispered. The Ravager fleet. They've been raiding our outer systems for months. Theknos was already at his communication console. All Council forces prepare for battle. This is not a drill. But even as he gave the orders, everyone in the chamber knew the truth. The Council's military forces were no match for the Ravager fleet. The pirates had been growing bolder because they knew the Council couldn't stop them. Council vessels are moving to intercept, Seo Jun reported. But Admiral, their fleet is 3 times larger than the Council's defensive force. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Do Hyun watched the tactical display with growing concern. Sir, the Council ships are outnumbered and outgunned. They won't last 10 minutes against that pirate fleet. Admiral Kyung-ho looked at the display for a long moment, then made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Captain Do Hyun, take us to battle stations. Sir, the Council is about to see what human protection really means. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for combat. Throughout the Indomitable, warning lights flashed as the crew prepared for battle. Weapons Officer Soo-jin powered up systems that hadn't been used since the weapons demonstration. Engineer Taman brought the ship's massive engines to full power. Council Station Alpha, this is Admiral Kyung-ho, the human commander announced over all frequencies. The Indomitable is moving to assist your defensive fleet. In the Council chamber, delegates watched in amazement as the massive human ship broke away from the station and accelerated toward the battle. On their sensors, they could see the pirate fleet. Over 40 ships armed with the latest weapons. Technology, they're going to fight for us, someone whispered. The Battle of Council Station Alpha lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The Ravager fleet, confident in their numerical superiority, moved to attack formation. They had been raiding Council space for months, growing rich off the inability of the peaceful species to defend themselves. They had never encountered anything like the Indomitable. The human ship moved through the pirate fleet like a force of nature. Particle beams reached out across impossible distances, turning pirate vessels into expanding clouds of plasma. Defensive systems that had never been fully tested absorbed the entire pirate fleet's combined firepower without strain. When the battle was over, the Ravager fleet had ceased to exist. Not a single pirate ship remained intact. The Indomitable hadn't suffered so much as a scratched hull plate. In the Council chamber, delegates stared at their displays in awe. The most feared pirate fleet in the galaxy had been destroyed by a single human exploration vessel. Council Speaker Morden's voice was shaky when he spoke. Admiral Kyung-ho, the Council owes you a debt that can never be repaid. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been in progress for 18 hours straight. Representatives from all 12 member species filled the great chamber, their voices rising in argument and fear. The footage of the human weapons demonstration played over and over on the central display, each viewing making the assembled delegates more nervous. Council Speaker Mordun stood at the center of the chaos, his crystalline body flickering with stress patterns. Around him, delegates shouted in dozens of languages while translators struggled to keep up with the rapid exchanges. "Order," Mordun called, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "We must have order." Slowly, the noise died down. All eyes turned to the central display where Dr. Quillara, the council's top scientist, waited to present her analysis. The elderly aquatic being floated in her specialized tank, tentacles moving nervously as she prepared to speak. "Honored colleagues," Dr. Quillara began, her voice bubbling through the translation system, "I have completed my analysis of the human weapon demonstration. The results are disturbing." She activated her display, showing sensor readings from the alien fleet. The energy output from their single shot was approximately 847 terawatts. To put this in perspective, that is more power than the combined annual energy production of most council worlds. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several smaller delegates actually fell from their seats. Furthermore, Dr. Quillara continued, "Analysis of their ship's hull suggests construction materials that should not exist, according to our understanding of physics. The density readings indicate armor plating at least 50 times stronger than our best military vessels." Teknos, the military advisor, stood slowly. His insectoid features were rigid with fear. "Doctor, based on your analysis, how would the Council fleet perform in combat against this single human vessel?" Dr. Quillara's tentacles curled inward, a sign of distress among her species. "Admiral Teknos, based on these readings, the entire Council fleet working together could not scratch their hull. Their defensive systems alone could destroy every ship we have." The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in galactic history, the Council faced a species that could destroy them without effort. "There is more," Dr. Quillara added quietly. "The humans repeatedly warned us to move to a safer distance. They were trying to protect us from their own demonstration. This suggests they understand their capabilities far better than we initially realized." Intelligence Officer Seo Jun sat in the Indomitable's communications center, monitoring the Council's emergency broadcasts. What he heard made his blood run cold. The aliens weren't just afraid, they were planning military action. He quickly contacted Admiral Kyung-ho. "Sir, you need to hear this. The Council military faction is discussing a preemptive strike. They're saying humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to exist." Kyung-ho arrived in the communications center within minutes, accompanied by Diplomatic Chief Mi Young and Cultural Analyst Jae Sung. They listened in horror as Teknos addressed the Council session. "Fellow delegates, we face an extinction-level threat. This species possesses weapons that could destroy our entire civilization. We cannot allow them to return to their home system and report our location to the rest of their kind." "But they've shown no hostile intentions," protested a delegate from one of the more peaceful species. "They came here seeking friendship. They are predators," Teknos replied. "They evolved by killing and conquering. Their peaceful words mean nothing when they have the power to destroy us all." Council historian Archwind activated his own display. The ancient being's forearms moved slowly as he called up historical data. "I have been researching the humans' cultural transmissions. What I have discovered is even more alarming than their weapons." The chamber fell silent as Archwind continued. "Their entertainment media contains thousands of stories about warfare, conquest, and violence. They create fiction about destroying entire planets, enslaving alien species, and conquering the galaxy. This is what they consider entertainment." Jae-sung grabbed the communication console. "Sir, I need to explain something. Our fiction isn't a guide to our behavior. It's a way of exploring ideas safely without actually doing them." But his words were lost in the growing panic of the Council session. Archwind was displaying images from human movies and books. Space battles, alien invasions, galactic empires. To the peaceful Council species, it looked like a blueprint for conquest. "Look at their history," Archwind continued. "Wars lasting decades. Weapons that could destroy their own planet. They fought continuously for thousands of years before developing space travel. What will they do when they encounter other worlds?" In the Indomitable's engineering section, Chief Engineer Tae Min was monitoring the alien communication networks when he discovered something that changed everything. He immediately contacted Admiral Kyung-ho. Sir, I've been analyzing their technology. Their ships, their weapons, their shields, everything. Admiral, they're using technology that's centuries behind what we abandoned decades ago. What do you mean? Kyung-ho asked. Their most advanced warships are using fusion reactors that we stopped using 50 years ago. Their weapons are particle beams, but they're using focusing methods we discarded as inefficient. Sir, their entire military is using what we would consider antique technology. The implications hit Kyung-ho like a physical blow. Are you saying that our exploration ship is more advanced than their best warships? It's worse than that, sir. The Indomitable isn't even a warship. It's one of our smaller exploration vessels. Our actual military ships are 10 times larger and 100 times more powerful. Kyung-ho sat down heavily. And they don't know this. No, sir. To them, we look like a massive battleship. They have no idea that this is just our standard exploration configuration. In the council chamber, the debate was reaching a crisis point. Military representatives from several species were demanding immediate action, while others called for peaceful negotiation. The chamber was split almost evenly. We cannot ignore the threat, Teknos declared. Every moment we delay gives them time to call for reinforcements. We must strike now while we face only one ship. And what if we're wrong? Challenged Morden. What if attacking them brings their entire species down upon us? Then we die fighting instead of dying on our knees, Teknos replied grimly. It was then that Admiral Kyung-ho made a decision that would change galactic history. He opened a communication channel directly to the council chamber, interrupting their debate. Council Speaker Mordun, this is Admiral Kyung-ho. I request permission to address the council immediately. The chamber fell silent. On their displays, the humans could see hundreds of alien faces staring at them with fear and suspicion. Admiral, Morden said carefully, this is a closed council session. I understand. But I believe there has been a serious misunderstanding that needs to be corrected immediately. Teknos leaned forward aggressively. What misunderstanding, human? Kyung-ho took a deep breath. What he was about to say would either save both species or doom humanity forever. The Indomitable is not a warship, he said clearly. It is an exploration vessel, one of our smaller ships designed for peaceful contact with other species. You have been analyzing our defensive capabilities, not our military ones. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Teknos' mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Impossible, he said. No species builds exploration ships with such weapons. We do, Kyung-ho replied calmly. Because space is dangerous, and we've learned that peace can only be maintained from a position of strength. But strength used wisely, not carelessly. Engineer Taemin stepped forward. If I may, Admiral, I think they need to understand the real situation. Kyung-ho nodded and Taemin activated his display. Images appeared showing Earth's orbital shipyards, massive construction facilities where ships 10 times the size of the Indomitable were being built. These are our actual warships, Taemin said quietly. The Indomitable is rated for deep space exploration and first contact scenarios. Our military vessels are considerably larger. Dr. Quillara made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret. Her tentacles were wrapped so tightly around herself that she looked like a ball of flesh in her tank. How much larger? She whispered. Taemin hesitated, then answered honestly. Our newest battleships are about 15 kilometers long. They carry weapons designed to destroy entire fleets in a single engagement. The council chamber fell into a silence so complete that only the humming of life support systems could be heard. Several delegates had actually stopped breathing, their species equivalent of shock. Finally, Morden found his voice. Admiral Kyung-ho, if your species possesses such power, why do you seek to join the council? You could simply take whatever you want. Because taking is not the same as building, Kyung-ho replied. Humanity learned long ago that civilizations built on conquest don't last. We prefer to build civilizations based on cooperation and mutual benefit. But you could conquer us all, Teknos said, his voice barely audible. Yes, Kyung-ho admitted, but we don't want to. We want to learn from you, trade with you, and explore the galaxy together. We believe that many minds working together can accomplish more than any one species alone. The stars looked different from this far away from home. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the strange constellations through the main viewing screen. 6 months of travel through the dark space between galaxies had brought them here, to the edge of what the alien signals called council space. Captain, Navigator Haywan called from her station. I'm picking up multiple ships ahead. They're moving to block our path. Do-hyun walked over to look at her screen. Small dots appeared on the display, moving in formation. These were the first alien ships they had ever seen with their own eyes. After decades of listening to radio signals from across the galaxy, humanity was finally going to meet their neighbors. How many ships? Do-hyun asked. 12 vessels, sir. They're much smaller than us, but they're armed. Haewon's fingers moved quickly over her controls. They're sending us a message. The main screen changed to show a reptilian face with green scales and yellow eyes. The creature spoke in a harsh, clicking language, but the ship's computer quickly translated the words. Unknown vessel, you have entered Council space without permission. Stop your engines and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will be met with force. Do-hyun looked around his bridge. Chief Engineer Taemin shook his head from his position near the power controls. Weapons Officer Soo-jin kept her hands away from her weapons panel. They had all agreed before leaving Earth that first contact should be peaceful. Open a channel, Do-hyun ordered. The alien commander appeared on screen again. His name, according to the translation, was Velthar of the Sarok Empire. Behind him, Do-hyun could see a bridge that looked too small and delicate compared to the Indomitable's heavy construction. This is Captain Do-hyun of the Earth ship Indomitable. We come in peace and request permission to speak with your council. We mean no harm. Velthar's eyes grew wide when he saw Do-hyun. The alien was clearly surprised by the human's size and appearance. On Velthar's bridge, other creatures could be seen pointing at their screens and talking quickly among themselves. You will submit to boarding and inspection, Velthar repeated, but his voice sounded less confident now. What species are you? You do not appear in our databases. We are humans from the planet Earth. This is our first journey beyond our home system. We seek peaceful contact with the Galactic Council. There was a long pause. Velthar seemed to be talking to someone off-screen. When he turned back, his expression was cautious. Very well, human. You will allow our inspection team aboard your vessel. Any weapons must be powered down. Any attempt to harm our people will result in the destruction of your ship. Do-hyun nodded. Understood. We will cooperate fully. The communication ended, and Do-hyun turned to his crew. Taemin looked worried, while Soo-jin seemed ready for trouble. Haewon was already calculating escape routes. Just in case. Security Chief Woo-jin to the bridge, Do-hyun called over the ship's communication system. Woo-jin arrived quickly, his heavy footsteps echoing in the corridor outside. Like all humans aboard the Indomitable, he was tall and powerfully built. The ship had been designed for humans, with wide corridors, high ceilings, and heavy doors that could withstand almost anything. Sir, the alien boarding party is requesting permission to dock, Woo-jin reported. Their ship is very small. I don't think more than 5 or 6 of them can fit aboard it. Let them dock in Bay 3, Do-hyun ordered. Make sure our people know to be careful around them. We don't know how fragile they might be. 20 minutes later, the alien boarding party came aboard. Do-hyun met them in the docking bay, along with Woo-jin and several other crew members. The humans had to bend down to look at the aliens properly. The boarding party consisted of 6 creatures from different species. Velthar was there, along with what looked like an insect-like being, a creature covered in fur, and 3 others that were harder to describe. The aliens stared up at the humans with obvious amazement. One of them, a small blue creature with large eyes, kept looking around the docking bay and making notes on a handheld device. Your ship is very large, Velthar said, his translated voice echoing in the vast space. How many of your kind does it carry? 800 crew members, Do-hyun replied. The aliens looked at each other with surprise. The insect-like creature made a chittering sound that the translator interpreted as nervous laughter. We would like to inspect your vessel, Velthar continued, to ensure you carry no weapons of mass destruction or dangerous materials. Of course, Do-hyun said. Woo-jin will escort you. As they walked through the ship's corridors, the aliens became increasingly quiet. The walls were thick metal, designed to withstand the pressure of deep space and enemy fire. The doors were massive, operated by hydraulic systems that could crush a normal human if they malfunctioned. To the aliens, everything must have looked impossibly heavy and strong. In the engine room, Taemin showed them the ship's power core. The aliens' instruments went wild when they tried to scan it. The blue creature spoke rapidly to Velthar in its own language, clearly excited about something. What type of power source is this? Velthar asked. Controlled fusion, Taemin replied simply. It's our standard engine for long-distance travel. The aliens exchanged glances again. Velthar made notes on his own device, his clawed fingers moving quickly. In the weapons bay, Sujin showed them the ship's defensive systems. She was careful to explain that everything was powered down, and that the Indomitable was an exploration vessel, not a warship. These are very large weapons, the insect creature observed. Its voice sounded like buzzing through the translator. They're just for protection, Sujin said, in case we meet hostile forces in deep space. What do you consider hostile forces? Velthar asked. Sujin thought for a moment. Pirates, maybe, or aggressive alien species who attack without warning. The boarding party spent 3 hours examining the ship. When they returned to the docking bay, they all looked nervous. Velthar approached Do-hyun with what appeared to be respect, though it was hard to tell with alien body language. Your ship will be escorted to Council Station Alpha, Velthar announced. The Council will decide whether your species is suitable for contact. We appreciate the opportunity, Do-hyun replied. After the aliens left, Do-hyun gathered his senior officers in the conference room. Everyone looked concerned. They seemed frightened, Haewon observed. Did you see how they reacted to our engine room? And our weapons, Sujin added. I kept trying to explain that we're peaceful, but they kept staring at our defensive systems like they'd never seen anything like them. Taemin leaned back in his chair. I think we might be bigger and stronger than they expected. Did you notice how small their ship was? And how delicate everything looked? Do-hyun nodded slowly. We'll need to be very careful at this council station. The last thing we want is to accidentally start a war because we're too big, or too strong for them to feel comfortable around. Sir, Woojin said quietly, what if they decide we're too dangerous to be allowed into their space? Do-hyun looked out at the stars through the conference room window. Earth was so far away now that their sun was just another point of light in the darkness. Then we'll have to prove to them that being strong doesn't mean being evil, he said. Humanity has learned that lesson the hard way over the centuries. Maybe we can teach it to them too. Council Station Alpha was unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. The massive structure hung in space like a metal flower, with dozens of arms extending from a central hub. Each arm was designed for different alien species, with different atmospheric requirements and gravity levels. Ships of every size and shape docked at various ports, creating a bustling center of galactic civilization. Admiral Kyung-ho stood in the Indomitable's observation deck, watching the station grow larger as they approached. Beside him, Chief Diplomat Mi-young reviewed her notes one final time, while cultural analyst Jae-sung recorded everything he saw for later study. It's beautiful, Mi-young said softly. All these different species working together. Let's hope they'll let us join them, Kyung-ho replied. The docking process took 2 hours. The station's controllers had to find a port large enough for the Indomitable, and even then the human ship barely fit. Through the windows they could see alien workers staring at their vessel with what looked like amazement and fear. A delegation of council representatives met them at the airlock. The group included members from 6 different species, each wearing what appeared to be formal diplomatic clothing. At their head was a tall, thin creature with crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Welcome to Council Station Alpha, the crystal being said through a translation device. I am Council Speaker Morden. These are my fellow representatives. Kyung-ho bowed slightly, a gesture Mi-young had suggested as universally respectful. Thank you for meeting with us. I am Admiral Kyung-ho of Earth. This is our chief diplomat Mi-young and cultural analyst Jae-sung. Morden's crystalline face was hard to read, but the other aliens seemed nervous. One of them, a creature with fur and large ears, kept looking up at the human's height and whispering to its companions. You are much larger than we expected, Morden observed. Commander Velthar's reports were concerning. We hope to address any concerns during our discussions, Mi-young said smoothly. Humanity seeks only peaceful relations with the Council. They were escorted through the station's corridors, which were clearly designed for smaller beings. The humans had to duck through doorways and move carefully to avoid bumping into alien passers-by. Everywhere they went, work stopped as creatures stared at them with wide eyes. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seating for hundreds of delegates. Representatives from 12 different species sat in sections designed for their particular needs. Some areas were filled with water for aquatic species, others had different atmospheric mixtures, and several had varying gravity fields. As the humans entered, conversations died away. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Kyung-ho, Mi-young, and Jae-sung were directed to a hastily prepared section in the center of the room, where all eyes could watch them. Council Speaker Morden took his position at the center of the chamber. His crystalline body caught the light from dozens of different sources, casting rainbow patterns on the walls. "This session is called to order," Morden announced. "We gather to hear from the species known as humans, who seek contact with the Galactic Council. Admiral Kyung-ho, you may present your case." Kyung-ho stood and several aliens leaned back nervously. Even seated, the humans were taller than most of the standing delegates. "Honored council members," Kyung-ho began, "we come from the planet Earth, located in what you call Sector 7 Alpha. For the past 50 years, we have listened to your communications and learned about your great alliance. We request the opportunity to join the council as peaceful members." A delegate from one of the insectoid species raised a claw. "What is the nature of your homeworld?" "Our sensors indicate it has unusually high gravity and dangerous atmospheric conditions." Jae-sung stood to answer. "Earth has a gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared, which we consider normal. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen and 78% nitrogen, with trace gases." The chamber erupted in surprised chittering and buzzing. Several delegates spoke rapidly in their own languages. A water-dwelling creature surfaced in its tank and made bubbling sounds that the translator rendered as shock. "That gravity would crush most of our species," observed a delegate with bird-like features. "And that oxygen concentration is toxic to many of us." "We apologize if our world seems harsh," Mi-young said quickly. "We had no choice in where we evolved, but we have learned to live peacefully despite our challenging environment." Morden raised a crystalline hand for silence. "Tell us about your species' history. How did you develop space travel?" Mi-young exchanged glances with her companions. They had prepared for this question, but the truth was complicated. "Humanity has a long history of conflict," she admitted. "We fought many wars before we learned to work together. Our space program began as competition between nations, but it became cooperation as we realized the benefits of working together." "Wars?" interrupted a delegate from what appeared to be a peaceful herbivorous species. "You mean actual physical combat between members of your own species?" "Yes," Jae-sung confirmed. "But we learned from our mistakes. For the past century, we have focused on exploration and scientific advancement rather than warfare." The chamber erupted again. Some delegates seemed horrified while others appeared fascinated. A military advisor from the insectoid species, whose nameplate identified him as Theknos, leaned forward with obvious interest. "What weapons did you use in these wars?" Theknos asked. Mi-young hesitated. "Various types. But we have moved beyond warfare. Our ship carries only defensive weapons." "Define defensive," Theknos pressed. Before Mi-young could answer, another delegate interrupted. "What predators exist on your world?" "Our analysis suggests your evolution was shaped by significant threats." Jae-sung brightened, thinking this was a safer topic. "Oh, Earth has many fascinating predators. Large cats that can leap great distances, bears that weigh over half a ton, sharks with multiple rows of teeth, venomous snakes, insects that can kill with a single sting." The chamber fell silent. Several smaller delegates had actually hidden behind their desks. The water-dwelling creature had submerged completely in its tank. "You lived among such creatures?" Morden asked, his voice barely audible through the translator. "Well, yes," Jae-sung said, confused by their reaction. "But humans are apex predators too. We learn to hunt and defend ourselves." This statement caused several delegates to faint. Medical teams rushed to assist them, while the remaining council members stared at the humans with new understanding. Theknos was the first to recover his composure. "You are saying that humans are predators? And you evolved on a world where you had to fight for survival against other predators?" "Among other things, yes," Kyung-ho confirmed. "But we also developed agriculture, art, music, literature, and science. We are not just predators." A small, timid delegate with large eyes spoke up nervously. What do you eat?" Mi-young realized this was a crucial moment. "We are omnivores. We eat both plants and meat, though many humans choose to eat only plants for ethical reasons." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages while translators worked frantically to keep up. Several more representatives fainted or fled the chamber entirely. Morden's crystalline body flashed bright white, a signal for silence. This session is temporarily suspended. The Council will need time to process this information. As the aliens filed out, many casting fearful glances at the humans, Kyung-ho turned to his companions. That didn't go as well as I hoped, he said quietly. They're herbivores, Jae-sung realized. Most of them anyway. They've never encountered a sapient predator species. Mi-young gathered her notes with shaking hands. And we just told them we evolved by fighting and killing other predators. No wonder they're terrified. Through the chamber's windows, they could see alien ships undocking from the station in large numbers. Word was spreading quickly through the galaxy that the new species was not just different, but potentially dangerous. What do we do now? Jae-sung asked. Kyung-ho looked out at the fleeing ships. We wait, and we hope we can convince them that being strong doesn't mean being evil. In the distance, emergency beacons flashed on several council vessels. The first news reports were already spreading across the galactic communication networks. Predator species makes contact. Council in emergency session. The humans sat alone in the vast chamber, surrounded by empty seats and abandoned translation devices. Outside, the galaxy was learning to fear them, and they hadn't even mentioned their technology yet. 3 days had passed since the disastrous first meeting with the Council. The humans remained aboard the Indomitable, docked at Council Station Alpha, while debates raged throughout the galaxy about what to do with them. Admiral Kyung-ho watched the news feeds with growing concern as fear spread from system to system. Another 3 systems have closed their borders, Chief Diplomat Mi-young reported, reading the latest updates. They're calling us the Death World species in the media. Cultural analyst Jae-sung looked up from his analysis of the alien reactions. It's worse than that. Some of the military factions are talking about preemptive action. They think we're a threat that needs to be eliminated. Before Kyung-ho could respond, the communication system activated. Council Speaker Morden appeared on the screen, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him stood several military advisors, including the insectoid Theknos who had questioned them so aggressively during the first meeting. Admiral Kyung-ho, Morden said, his crystalline voice carrying tension. The Council has been debating your species' application for membership. Many of our members have concerns about your capabilities. We understand their concerns, Kyung-ho replied carefully. We hope to address them through honest dialogue. Thekno stepped forward, his insect-like features hard and suspicious. Words are insufficient. If humanity wishes to join the Council, you must prove that your technology poses no threat to existing members. What exactly are you asking? Mi-young interjected. A demonstration, Theknos said flatly. We have prepared a suitable target, an asteroid in an uninhabited system. You will show us your weapons capabilities so we can properly assess the threat level. Kyung-ho felt his stomach tighten. This was exactly what they had hoped to avoid. Our ship is designed for exploration, not warfare. We would prefer not to display weapons. Then you will be refused entry to Council space and escorted to the border. Theknos replied coldly. The Council must know what it is dealing with. There was a long pause as Kyung-ho considered his options. Refusing would mean the end of humanity's hopes for galactic membership. Agreeing might convince the aliens that humans were too dangerous to trust. Very well, he said finally. We will provide a limited demonstration. But I want it clearly understood that what you see represents only our defensive capabilities. Of course, Morden said, though his tone suggested he didn't believe it. 6 hours later, a small fleet of Council ships followed the Indomitable to the designated system. The target was a large asteroid, roughly 3 kilometers across, floating in empty space. The Council fleet positioned itself what they considered a safe distance away, about 50 kilometers from the target. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the alien ships on his displays. Chief Engineer Taemin was at his station, looking uncomfortable with the whole situation. Admiral, Do-hyun said over the communication link, the Council fleet is positioning themselves much closer than I would recommend for this demonstration. How much closer? Kyung-ho asked from the observation deck where he stood with the diplomatic team. About 49 kilometers too close, Weapons Officer Soo-jin reported from her station. Sir, even our smallest particle beam has a significant area of effect. If we fire at that asteroid, the energy discharge could damage their ships. Do-hyun opened a channel to the Council fleet. Council vessels, we recommend you increase your distance from the target. Our weapons have a larger effect radius than you might expect. Technos' voice came back immediately. We are at a safe distance. Proceed with your demonstration. Soo-jin looked at Do-hyun with concern. Captain, I really think they should move back further. How far back? Do-hyun asked. At least 500 kilometers, maybe 1,000 to be completely safe. Do-hyun shook his head. They'll never believe we need that much space. They'll think we're trying to hide something. He opened the channel again. Council fleet, we strongly advise moving to a distance of at least 500 kilometers. Our defensive systems are designed for deep space combat. There was laughter in Technos' response. 500 kilometers? What kind of primitive weapons do you use that require such distances? We are military professionals. We know what we are doing. Taemin looked up from his engineering station. Captain, maybe we could reduce power to minimum settings. What's minimum power for our particle beam array? Do-hyun asked. Soo-jin checked her displays. About 15% of normal output, sir. Any lower and the beam won't maintain coherence over distance. Do it. 15% power, shortest possible burst. Soo-jin programmed the weapons system carefully. Captain, even at 15% power, this is going to be bigger than anything they've ever seen. I know, but we don't have a choice. On the Council command ship, Technos watched his sensors with confidence. His species had fought wars across the galaxy for thousands of years. He knew weapons technology, and nothing these primitive newcomers had could surprise him. All ships prepare to record the demonstration, he ordered. I want detailed analysis of their weapon output and capabilities. The Indomitable turned slowly to face the asteroid. Along its hull, a small section opened to reveal one of many particle beam emitters. To the aliens watching, it looked almost tiny compared to the massive ship. Council fleet, this is Captain Do-hyun, firing in 10 seconds. We strongly recommend increasing distance immediately. Proceed, Technos replied dismissively. Soo-jin looked at Do-hyun one last time. Sir, are you sure about this? Fire. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the Indomitable. To human eyes, it was barely visible, just a slight distortion in space. But when it struck the asteroid, the result was spectacular. The 3-kilometer rock didn't just explode. It simply ceased to exist, converted instantly to plasma and radiation. The energy beam continued past where the asteroid had been, traveling on into deep space where it would finally dissipate after several light minutes. The shockwave hit the Council fleet like a tsunami. Ships tumbled out of control as their shields overloaded and failed. Emergency alarms wailed across all frequencies as alien crews struggled to regain control of their vessels. All ships evasive maneuvers, Technos shouted as his own ship spun wildly. We're under attack. Negative. Do-hyun's voice cut through the panic. This is Captain Do-hyun. You are not under attack. That was the demonstration you requested. It took 20 minutes for the Council fleet to regain control and assess the damage. 3 ships had suffered hull breaches. 5 more had lost their main engines. Every vessel in the fleet was reporting system failures from the electromagnetic pulse generated by the asteroid's destruction. Technos stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. Where the asteroid had been, there was now only empty space and dissipating energy. The human's defensive weapon had hit with more force than his entire fleet could generate working together. Impossible, he whispered. That was a 3-kilometer asteroid. Solid rock and metal. Nothing could destroy it so completely. On the Indomitable, Soo-jin was checking her weapons status. Captain, all systems normal. No damage to the particle beam array. That was actually a pretty clean shot. Do-hyun opened a channel to the Council fleet. Council vessels, this is Indomitable. Do you require assistance? We have medical teams standing by. Admiral Kyung-ho arrived on the bridge, his face grim. Captain, I'm reading weapons locks from several Council ships. They think we've attacked them. All ships stand down immediately. Morden's voice cut through the communication chaos. The humans are not hostile. Repeat, stand down all weapons. Slowly, the Council fleet powered down their weapon systems, but the damage was done. Fear had been replaced by terror. Every alien in the fleet now understood that humanity possessed weapons beyond their comprehension. Admiral Kyung-ho. Technos' voice came over the communication system, shaky and uncertain. What was the power level of that demonstration? Kyung-ho looked at Soo-jin, who held up her hand, showing all 5 fingers spread wide, then made a fist. 15%. That was a low-power defensive shot, Kyung-ho replied honestly. We reduced output to minimize collateral damage. There was a long silence from the council fleet. When Technos spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Low power? That was low power? Affirmative. And this is an exploration vessel, not a warship. Our defensive systems are designed to protect us during long voyages through unknown space. Another long silence. Then Morden's voice, carefully controlled. Admiral, we need to return to Council Station Alpha immediately. The full council must be informed of what we have witnessed. As the battered council fleet limped back toward the station, Do-hyun turned to his crew. Well, that could have gone better. Taemin shook his head. Sir, I think we just scared them more than they were already. I know, Do-hyun replied, watching the alien ship struggle to maintain formation. But maybe now they'll understand that we really are trying to be peaceful. If we wanted to hurt them, we could have done it already. Behind them, space slowly returned to normal where the asteroid had been. But in the council fleet, emergency meetings were already beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not just dangerous. They were beyond anything the council had ever imagined.